the betrayals. There are few things more dangerous than betrayal, not from an enemy, but from a brother. The greatest empire ever forged by a single man nearly crumbled before it even rose, because of trust, because of blood, because of brotherhood. HistoriSync production. This is the story of how Temujin, the man the world would come to know as Genghis Khan, was almost destroyed. Not by armies, not by foreign kings, but by the one he once called his soul brother, Jamukha. Genghis Khan the Great, Episode 3. Long before he was a conqueror, Temujin was a child exiled to the cold loneliness of the Mongolian steppes. After his father's assassination, his family was left to starve, hunted by former allies. A boy with no tribe, no food, and no future. But amidst the harsh winds of fate, a spark of loyalty ignited. Jamukha, they met as boys and sons of rival noble families, but shared a bond deeper than politics. Mongols have a word for it. Anda, more than a friend, more than a brother. The soul bound in oath under the eternal blue sky. Temujin and Jamukha swore to be in this friend. They shared food, dreams, and the bitter cold. And in that cruel world, their brotherhood gave them strength. But time does strange things to men, especially when power whispers in their ears. Years passed. Temujin, once an outcast, began gathering loyal warriors men who followed not his name, but his ideals. He defied the rigid traditions of the Mongol aristocracy. He elevated men by merit, not blood. A blacksmith's son could ride beside a general. Jamukha, meanwhile, inherited noble support. He clung to the old ways. To him, Temujin's reforms were dangerous, unnatural, a threat to the sacred order, and so from brothers, they became rivals. In 1186, Temujin was declared Khan by his growing followers. It was not just a personal victory, it was a revolution. Its rise sent ripples through the steppe. Jamukha saw it not as destiny, but betrayal. Only a year later, Jamukha struck. With the backing of traditionalist nobles, he led an army of over 30,000 men against Temujin's smaller force. They met at Dalan Baljut. The steppe thundered with hooves and arrows. Temujin's warriors fought fiercely outnumbered, but not outmatched in heart. Yet they were overwhelmed. It was a devastating defeat. But what followed was unforgivable. Jamukha, not content with victory, captured 70 of Temujin's top commanders. And in a display meant to break Temujin's spirit, he boiled them alive. The message was clear. There is no mercy for traitors, not even if they were once your brother. Temujin fled into exile, hunted, hated, but not broken. What Jamukha didn't understand, what so many throughout history failed to grasp, is that suffering does not always end a man. Sometimes it awakens him. In hiding, Temujin reflected, planned, waited. He watched how the common people feared Jamukha's brutality, how the nobles grew fat and careless, and how the tribes still cried for justice. Over the next decade, Temujin rebuilt, not with noble promises, but with fairness. He outlawed the kidnapping of women, shared spoils equally among soldiers, punished disloyalty without bias. He was becoming not just a warrior, but a lawgiver, a leader. By 1201, the time had come. Temujin's banner rose once more. This time, it was not just a rebellion, it was a movement. Tribes that once opposed him now came willingly. Even former enemies joined his cause. The memory of the boiling, the injustice, still burned. Jamukha, sensing the shift, declared himself Gurkhan universal ruler. It was a bold move, but also a desperate one. The battle lines were drawn once again. In the decisive clash, Temujin's tactics overwhelmed Jamukha's tradition-bound forces. His army was not just better led, it believed. Victory came swiftly. This time, it was Jamukha who fled, and he didn't run for long. Captured by Temujin's men, Jamukha was brought before his former brother. The two men, now hardened by years of war, stood face to face. No words could erase the past. But something remarkable happened. Temujin offered forgiveness. He offered to restore Jamukha's position, to rule beside him, perhaps out of lingering love, perhaps to show the world that mercy could be mightier than vengeance. But Jamukha refused. He said, there can be only one sun in the sky. He asked for a noble death, And Temujin, honoring the bond they once shared, granted it. Jamukha was executed without torture. That moment marked more than the end of a rivalry. It marked the final shedding of Temujin's past. The child, the exile, the betrayed brother, he was gone. What remained was Genghis Khan. He would go on to unite the Mongol tribes under one banner, to build the largest land empire the world has ever known, to crush kingdoms and rewrite maps. But none of that would have been possible without betrayal, without Jamukha. Where somewhere in the winds of Mongolia, you can still hear it, the whispers of the blood oath, the cries of boiling betrayal, the silence between brothers, and the rise of a Khan. What's more painful, betrayal from your enemy or your own brother? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more dark stories from the corners of history, subscribe now to HistoriSync, where history connects with you.